soul was deeply crushed. I have never experienced such pain. I remember thinking that,
Yeah.
I remember I could honestly not see past my eyelashes. I didn't know how I was going to live.
Hi, daughters. If you have not heard, there is a conference called Uncommon Daughters Conference that is going to be here in New Orleans, September 20th through the 22nd. I am the host or the MC of the conference, Queen Justine, and I have the honor of interviewing the woman who is birthing this conference with the Lord and who has just birthed a powerful ministry called Uncommon Daughters. Miss Pascale Johnson, how are you today, Pascale?
I'm well. How are you?
Girl, we're doing real good. We're doing real good. So the people, they want to know, who is Pascale Johnson. So today we want to give them a little insight into your background, your testimony. So let's first start with the name Uncommon Daughters. That is such a unique name. What does that name mean to you, or why is that meaningful to you?
Well, this name is actually a huge testimony of my personal story. I never thought the Lord would give me a name like this for a ministry. If I had it my way, it would have probably been something else.
Yeah.
But I wrestled with the name for a long time. But then when I kept sharing my testimony with people, I keep hearing, wow, you have an uncommon story. You have an uncommon story. But then for me, being uncommon represent honestly embracing who God has made me to be. And I understand that I have a unique path.
Yeah.
I'm just a unique person that the Lord has created for a set of, with unique sets of gifts, and just, embracing that. Because growing up, I don't know if I like myself the way I should have, because I was bullied for a very long time. At times, if I could have lived in somebody else's, body and leave my skin, it would have been a lot easier. But then God sees me as uncommon. What people saw as, oh, she's weird, or she's ugly, or her skin color is this, but God saw me as uncommon. So this is what uncommon means to me. Just embracing who I am, and even if it means doing uncommon things.
Yeah, that's so good. Like this wonderful conference that y'all should attend.
Yes.
So let's dig into this uncommon story that you have. So you're not originally from the United States. You're originally from Haiti. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about your transition from Haiti to America?
Yeah, so my parents were separated. I believe my dad brought us here when I was 14 years old, me and my siblings, and it wasn't also uncommon path. So when I came here, we had to live with my dad and my stepmom. It really wasn't easy. We had a language barrier, but then in high school again, I started getting bullied. Wow. So I went through a lot, but all of it boils down to being uncommon.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's beautiful. So so you used to be a hairdresser at one point, right? And so now you're doing full-time ministry. So what did that transition out of doing hair, like why was that something that you were passionate about, and then what did it look like transitioning out of that into full-time ministry?
Well, transitioning out of the beauty industry to ministry was very interesting because first of all, I never thought in my mind that the Lord would call me to full-time ministry. I had never expected that. And I believe I kind of felt like God was calling me out of the beauty industry into doing something else, but I just couldn't pinpoint what it was. I remember at one point I told my husband, this is not working anymore. Should I go back to school? Like, we were trying to figure out what is the next step for me. But deep down, I felt like he was asking me to let go of the business.
Wow.
And I ended up just...
What business was this now that you had?
It was a beauty business. I was doing hair and, personally in person. But then I was also selling hair extensions.
And this was a very successful, highly successful business at this that you had to lay down.
Yes. So I had a dream, and the Lord said, in 3 days, you're going to receive a news where you're going to go the opposite of what everyone expected you to do.
Wow.
it's different from the world. I was like, I can't wait to see what this is. And then in 3 days, I did receive a phone call from my lawyer. I was rebranding the business, putting structure in place, and I was in the process of trademarking the brand. And she said, Pascale, I don't know what's going on. They're not approving your trademark. This is the third time and final. We can't really do anything. And the same day, I received a phone call from a young lady telling me, Pascale, I feel like I'm supposed to call you. God is pushing me to call you. I'm having suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
Can you help me? And I remember just laying in bed before her call, just probably having a pity party about, okay, God, like I worked so hard for this.
Yes.
Now I'm losing all of this. This is really like it. And I received a phone call and I heard him said, yeah, this is your assignment.
Come on, you got a phone call. He was
Yeah.
calling you for your calling. Wow.
Yeah.
So while you were rebranding, the Lord was rewriting your story,
This is
because
so
he had
good.
another story. He was rebranding you.
Yes.
Come on, baby.
Yes, I love that.
Wow. So
true.
go ahead. Did you have anything else to add?
No, that's good.
So on top of having to transition out of the beauty, let's hit this real quick while we're on this part of the beauty industry. The Lord has really given you a burden for beautifying His bride. How does that, how did the industry you were in really prepare you for the role of beautifying the bride now?
That's a very interesting question. When the Lord is referring to my assignment,
Yeah.
He still shows me myself as a hairdresser. Because I was beautifying people on the outside, but
Yeah.
now I'm doing it internally, more so renewing people's mind. So when it comes to
Wow.
preparing the bride, it's all about renewing their mind, because if somebody's mind is not renewed, they can never step in alignment. They can never, be transformed or be changed when it comes to what
Yeah.
God is doing in their lives. So it's all in correlation with, I always say this, our spiritual gifts literally mirror our physical, natural talents. So I'm not doing anything different. It's the same thing. It's just it just look different, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yes.
So if I recall from your story, you and your husband have been on a crazy, uncommon journey. Like most people, even most Christians, look for comfort. They look for stability. But your journey has not been one of comfort and has not been one of stability. So can you kind of just share with the people little snippets of just I believe y'all moved 5 times, you and your husband, in a span of how long?
5 different states and 7 cities.
5 different states.
Yes.
In 5 years.
Yes.
That is very uncommon. So can you just kind of give us a little snippet of where y'all, what the states that y'all went to, and just how God encountered y'all in each one?
So it started right after we got married. I just felt the burden. I was in prayer in our, living room, and I just kept on hearing the word transition. And my husband also felt the burden of leaving Florida, but we didn't know what that was going to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, this is when the Lord started shaking me out of my comfort when it comes to my business, because we had planned on buying a house. I had planned on opening a salon.
Wow.
And He didn't allow any of that to happen, because if we had stayed in Florida, I believe comfort, I would have never birthed this ministry because of comfort.
Wow.
Many of us, comfort has literally stolen our future, literally. Yeah. So the Lord uprooted us out of Florida, which was a crazy story. Out of that, we got evicted, helping a friend. We were paying them for a few months. They did not, integrity issues. So we basically was helped by this man my husband was working for. He allowed us to stay at his house for 3 months. From there,
3 months for free, right?
For free.
That's the provision of the Lord.
Yes, because we didn't know what we were going to do, because you randomly got an eviction notice on your door. What do you do?
Yeah.
So it was during COVID. My husband, was fired from his job, and he basically took a job at a window place where they change windows and stuff like that. It was way lower than what he would, typically get paid for. But I believe this humble decision, God used it to really bless us in a way that we never expected. So this man my husband was about to quit the job after a week, and this man was like, no, what's going on? So we ended up telling him the story of how we were helping a friend, and unfortunately, this is what happened to us. He said, no, we'll let you stay at our home.
Wow.
For 3 months. It was a beautiful lake house. It was so peaceful. It felt like
that
a mini vacation.
And that's what's so powerful, y'all. When the Lord asks you to do something and you obey, He will provide, and He will provide beyond what you could ever ask. Like, your expectation and God's reality is so wild. So He shook y'all out of Florida, and so then what was y'all's next step?
Well,
where did y'all go next?
The next step, we honestly didn't know where we were going, but my husband's family opened up their door to us here in Louisiana. I also have a sister who lives in the Midwest. She's still in the Air Force, so she was stationed there, and she opened up her door to us as well. And my husband leave it up to me. He said, pray about it and see what the Lord says. I felt like the Midwest was it, so we ended up transitioning to the Midwest. We were in the Midwest for another 3 months. At this point, my husband was, looking to get back in the news business. He had a news agent, and he had a few jobs that came up, but we felt like it was not aligned with what the Holy Spirit was telling us. We ended up, refusing those jobs, but there was a minor change my husband asked his agent to do. I feel like it was a word of wisdom from the Holy Spirit. My husband said, no more local news opportunities. The news station the landscape is changing. Let's do digital. And he made the adjustment on his website concerning my husband's job opportunity, and within 24 hours he got a phone call.
Wow.
It was a Christian billionaire looking for a news excuse me, what do you do again, baby?
Like a producer position?
Not producer, but he was a news anchor. So I mean, this opportunity was so from God. So from there, we moved from Kansas City, Missouri to Nebraska, which was literally 3 hours away.
So for 3 months, y'all were in Kansas City, and then after that, God opened y'all again to Nebraska.
To Nebraska.
Wow.
So Nebraska was a beautiful place of healing for us. Not only like my husband encountered some health issues, but then we had some church hurts. A lot of stuff happened, and we needed healing from, let's just put it this way, the things that happened had made me so bitter. I literally wanted nothing to do with the church, but I felt like God had put us in a community that was healthy, where we see where people can thrive and do church together, and it's not like toxic.
And I love that, because literally God provided a space for them to heal, and I think that's huge to emphasize. Like, God calls people and He has assignments for them, but He's not interested in just using us. Like, He's also interested in making sure we're healed and we're whole, so that as we go out and do these assignments, like, we are pouring out from a healed place. But He can use our brokenness and our healing process to pour into others. So I love that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When you were in Nebraska, is this when things happened with your brother and your grandmother?
Yes.
So we're gonna Pascale's gonna share a really sensitive part of her life that I think is very vital to her testimony personally. Can you just kind of share with the people what happened with your grandmother?
Yeah. So my grandmother is literally a huge part of who I am today when it comes to my faith and even this ministry, because the Lord, based on an encounter I had with Him, told me this is an inheritance passed down to me from my grandmother. So I remember being a little girl, my grandma would take us on prayer mountains for days. It was always so beautiful. My grandma would always sing with us, reading the Bible with us. I remember seeing this woman waking up every morning, being consistent in her Bible, reading it. So, but my little brother, we're not the same mom. So when my dad migrated us from Haiti to the States, he was 6. So he was always the baby brother that we all loved. When everybody left the house, I was the only person that remained. So it was me and him that stayed in the house. So a funny joke is this: when I met my husband, he thought my brother was my son, actually.
No way.
He did, because he was always with me. He was my little sidekick. So his death really shook me. Yeah, it was a very dark time for me, because having both of them passing away in the same week.
So your grandmother and your brother both passed away in the same week?
Yes. When my brother passed away, I believe we were on our anniversary, birthday trip, because our weddings are on the same week as our birthdays. And while I was away, I told my husband, something is not right. My spirit is not at rest.
He passed away on the week of your birthday?
Yeah, kind of, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we came back from our vacation, I came home. I was restless because I needed to speak to him. I'm not hearing from him. I'm like, something is not right. Something is not right. But then I believe a day after we got back to Nebraska from our vacation, I received a phone call that wrecked me. He drowned. He died on the 29th of September, and my grandmother passed, I think maybe 3 days later after him. So, I mean, my soul was deeply crushed. I have never experienced such pain. I remember thinking that, I remember I could honestly not see past my eyelashes. I didn't know how I was going to live. I'm sorry.
No, do not be sorry. That is very hard.
Yeah. He was such a light, and his name means a friend. His name was Darwin, so it was truly a friend.
Yeah.
Darwin was 19, I believe. But then he was so mature for his age. It was such a delight to be around. Yeah. I'm sorry, like I'm gonna...
No.
I'm crying. Yeah, I think his death really rocked me the most because he had so much life to live. And I feel like we all been through so much together. I just felt like he never got to see any greater side of life other than trauma and trouble. Yeah. Because I really wanted him to experience different. It really hurt me that he never got to see better than being called unfair names and just different things. My stepmom was not the most kind person. So yeah, his death really rocked me. I feel like my grandmother lived a beautiful life, and I've experienced my grandma. I've experienced being around my grandma. I've enjoyed her, but my brother, there was just something different with him. Yeah. And I think his death literally, him plus my grandmother together just crushed me so bad that I got into a bad depression that I could not like even move. All I kept on thinking about, thank you, is honestly my funeral was being, thank you, sis. Yeah.
This is what sisterhood looks like, by
Yes.
what being a daughter looks like.
Thank you, sis.
You're welcome.
So honestly, I was laying in bed and I felt like all I had was bad thoughts about dying.
Wow.
And I felt like my funeral was next. I remember thinking, where am I gonna get buried? Like, it was really bad thoughts. I would think about my funeral, all of that, but then my husband would come home every day because it was so dark for me. I would close our windows, like deep depression.
Wow.
And he would come home every day at 11 o'clock for lunch to make sure he sit down and eat with me. And I got COVID after that. Yeah. Oh, I don't know what I would do without this man. I ended up getting COVID after that, so I didn't go to church for maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months. I don't want to exaggerate it, but this woman at our church, we call her Mama K. She's always like praying for everybody and hearing from God for everybody. And she approached me. She said, "Where have you been? I have not seen you." I said, "My brother died, my grandmother died." And she said, "I don't know, the Lord have been waking me up to pray for you at 3 a.m. You can ask my husband." And she said, "I'm seeing the spirit of death all over you." I remember that day like it was literally yesterday. Then she began to pray for me. And I just felt so much better after she prayed. Wow. But then, that was November of 2021. But 4 or 5 months later, I think I'm exaggerating, December, January, February, March. Yes, 4 months later, I went to Florida. I was actually, remember the rebranding I talked about? I was doing a photo shoot for the rebranding of my business. And at the rebranding shoot, a friend asked me if I wanted to go visit a church. I said, yeah, absolutely. Anytime I get to go to church, it's always a delight. So
Wow.
we drove straight from the photo shoot to church, and it was a African church. I walked in maybe about an hour and a half after worship. The pastor happens to be a prophet, and he located me in the back, and he asked me to come. And when he asked me to come, me and my friend looked at each other. You think it's you? You think it's? She's like, no, it's you. I said, no, it's you.
Come on, he showed you from the crowd. Lord said, come on.
Yeah, I felt so seen that day, and I remember walking up front to the altar to go, to go to him, and shaking. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what this man is about to say. Maybe something in my business because I need direction. Yeah. And he began to basically read my mail. He began to talk about my brother and how the first thing I remember he said is that the spirit of fear is looming all over you and it has to go.
Amen.
And that's when I realized that fear is an open door for the enemy to come in, because I think my brother's death, especially because he was so young, it really instilled fear in me. So I believe that became an open door for the enemy to come in and honestly torment me. You can grieve, but I'll tell people, do not stay in your grief too long.
Yeah, there's a season for grief. But
there's a season
to
for
walk
it.
Out of it in power.
Because if you don't walk out of it, this is like
it can be consuming.
Yeah. So then I remember one instance. He said, when I saw you in the back, the Lord opened my eyes in a vision, and I saw 5 caskets. And one person in the casket is your face.
Wow.
And he said, then the Lord opened my eyes. I saw an angel. He grabbed you and he said, this one cannot die. She have an assignment over her life. And
I love this part of her story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If I don't know nothing else, Justine, I know that God knows.
Yeah, he does. A lot.
My life is a gift. Man. I didn't have to be here, but he chose for me to be here. And this is one of the reasons why people ask me, why are you so devoted to God?
Wow. Wow.
This is my reasonable worship.
Wow.
He really didn't have to save me, sis. I don't think my brother's death plus how he really saved me changed my whole perspective in life.
Yeah.
We don't have much time. Tell as much people as we can about the Lord. Forgive as much as we can. And we don't have much time. Just do what God has called us to do. And do it well.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I want the Lord to say, well done.
Yeah. Good
and faithful servant. Yeah, people don't understand
so
why I'm so intense about God. Yeah, this is why I go all out.
Because he's so intense about you.
Sis, he jealously protects me. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I don't think I can express my love for him enough, but let's talk about his love for me. You know, so this is why I
it's not a common type of love.
It's very uncommon. Yeah.
Wow.
So
no, that's
I hope that answers my
question. Thank you for being willing to share. Like, that's personal, that's difficult, but I really believe that that's gonna help so many people.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh my God. It look white.
Yeah. It keeps sticking on your face.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, after that encounter, it literally changed my life. The depression was lifted. The dark cloud, the fear, the spirit of depression was lifted off of me. And when people ask me, who is Pascale? Honestly, what comes to mind is literally a product of grace. Wow. That's it. That is it.
It's like when you have that revelation of what you have, like, there is no denying. Like I think in American Christianity, we become so familiar and common with God that we don't fear him. We don't like live our lives in full devotion. But it's like, to hear this testimony, like, I hope those of you that are listening that maybe don't have a similar story or haven't gone through something as like traumatic as that hearing this is igniting something in you. Like, have I gotten common with the Lord? So thank you for sharing that, because it stirs me up, and so I know someone listening is being touched.
Yeah.
Now, so this happened while you were in Nebraska. So once you and your husband were in Nebraska, how long did you stay, and then what was the next transition?
Well, after that encounter, the Lord just began to speak to me to dreams and visions.
Wow.
I was always a dreamer. I would have visions, but never, I don't know if I took them serious enough, although in my culture, they do put a lot of emphasis on dreams. But I felt like my soul was trapped with the depression, with my judgment was clouded because I was trying to fix my business, because when you come here from an immigrant background, your family just wants you to be stable.
Yeah.
Find comfort, find a good job you can make money, because
and that makes sense. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, they brought you here for a better life. So, and I think for me, the Lord has opened my eyes to understand it's not about what people think I should do, but what does He want me to do?
Yeah, that's
right?
so good.
So, yeah, it just changed my whole life about trying to do my business. But what is God requiring of me? And like I said, this ministry, my calling, I never thought God saw me in that way. Let's just say when I encountered Him after that, the Lord showed me who I truly was. When it comes to my identity, how He saw me, because I felt like I was carrying a lot of pressure to look a certain way, to portray when it comes to my business, having the kids, having the house, like just reaching a certain goal for my career. And I remember God just, I don't know if it was a rebuke or not, but He's like, who told you to put that yoke around your neck? Like, just the expectations of men. And He said, hand over your timeline to me. Hand over the timeline. Don't worry about having a baby by 30, the house, this. Justine, those lies lifted off of me, and I became so free. I was just like entering this beautiful season where God began to show me what He had for me and my husband, and He began to share about like entering the promised land, and He was talking about a lot about inheritance. Then I just knew He had great things in stores, and that's when I quickly find out that He wanted us to transition to Texas.
Come on. And
in Texas is where all of my, training started for my calling.
Wow.
Where the Lord began to share with me. He sent multiple people to me. Young lady, you're called. God is getting ready to send you out. Don't ignore your calling. Your husband is supposed to help this. I mean, sis, I could not ignore it. And I was like, okay, now it makes sense why God was asking me to let go of my business and not worry about people's expectations. And if anybody's watching, I want to encourage you to hand over your timeline to people, because it can become an idol. Hand it over to God, I meant to say, and not worry about people's opinions. You can become a slave to that.
That's so
and
good.
The marriage you want can become an idol. The career you want, that thing that you want to accomplish by that age can become an idol. So I handed everything over to the Lord, and just I began to see my life the way He sees it.
So powerful too, that like He used Nebraska as a time of healing, and then He used Texas as a time of like affirming who you were from this now healed place. So I'm just like, before He sent y'all, as you'll see, like to Louisiana to now do the work from your healed and. Never mind, I'm getting ahead of myself. Y'all were in y'all's promised land in Texas, and then God began to shake the finances, shake everything around you. And so then y'all decided to come to where your husband is from, New Orleans. So what was, how did God meet y'all when y'all got here to New Orleans? What was that like for you?
Sis, it was not easy, because imagine, I don't know, this was a huge shift for us coming back to live with your parents. Not my parents.
So y'all came back and lived with his family.
With his family. So it was literally like an eye-opener. It was very humbling, having to not work. The Lord told me not to work. I couldn't understand why. I'm like, Lord, I can still do my business part-time, then do this. It's like, no ma'am. Leave all. Leave all and fully focus on what I'm asking you to do. So my husband didn't have a job either, so his parents had to basically, let's just say, take care of both of us.
A little sponsorship,
Literally take care of us. So it was hard, especially the first couple of months. I mean, I knew what the Lord told me. I held on to these promises because I was not going to give up.
Yeah.
I kept on pressing and pressing because I know I will see those promises to fruition one day.
And you said like the Lord, when you came to New Orleans, the Lord took you into a period of really deep consecration. Can you kind of just like expound on that, or why that was so significant or so important now looking back?
Yeah, there's always a season of preparation before the Lord sends you out, and that is one of the prophetic words I had in Texas. I think many people, once they receive their call, oh, okay, this is your function, God calls you. My next question was, what's next? And how do you prepare? Then the Lord began to, lead me into, let's just say, ordained fast. And He would ask me to literally study and ensure myself approved. So I would stay home, study consistently, day and night. He told me to eat the word. Wow. So that's what I was doing, and consistently fast. He would lead me in one fast, pull me out of it, another one, and study, and just, send me to prophetic school, just many different things. And I knew that He was preparing me for something bigger, which was my calling. Honestly, I never thought this God would call me to do any of that. I thought He was a lot smaller than this, but when He keeps saying, no, focus, don't do, I'm like, what? Then my function became more clear. And I don't think if I wasn't consecrated the way the Lord had pulled me away to, if I would understand my calling. From those time of consecration, he began to share the vision of the ministry to me. Wow. He would pull me, different times in different fasts. He would give, He speaks in parts, so He give me little pieces of it. Yes. And then when we came to New Orleans, then he sent us to a church, actually. It's a church I met you at.
Oh, crazy.
New Orleans. And He gave me a vision of that church.
Wow. And
randomly, I don't want to say randomly, I went to prophetic school, actually, and my husband was in California, and my husband was here in New Orleans. He was just visiting, churches in the city. And he said, hey, I stumbled upon this cute church. You would love it. I said,
it is
hold
cute.
up to
it
this.
Is pretty cute.
Hold up. When I come back from my trip, then we'll investigate to see if this is what I saw in the vision. And it was truly Antioch.
Wow.
I knew we got here in March of 2023, and the Lord began to speak about Antioch in June, actually. And we found Antioch in August.
That's amazing.
So from there, He began to tell me, pray for the land, pray for the pastors, and I didn't even know anybody.
Wow.
And He said there was a move of the Spirit that is coming to this land, and just keep praying, intercede. And that's what I was doing. Nobody knew me behind the scene while I'm being trained and things like that. He sent me to glean from other people. So I don't believe, He gives you small little assignments behind the scene. He starts you small, then He adds.
That secret place.
Yes.
Can you talk about, from that secret place, just like the burdens that He really placed within your heart for specific people groups, and specific people groups here in like New Orleans and probably beyond New Orleans, but like what are the burdens that you carry in your heart that are from the Lord? I
think being called, people think it's just like a cool thing. I mean, it is amazing to be used by the Lord, but when you're called, you're literally carrying God's burden. God also have dreams and visions. He also have things He wants to accomplish. And when you're called, He basically mature you. This is why preparation is important. And my preparation for 2 years was me understanding what is carrying God's burden. Like, what does that look like? Because many people are called, I feel like they turn it into self, but it's literally you learning to carry God's burden. Then He prepare you and send you out to go care for those people that He's, always place His burden on your heart for. So for me, the Lord sent me to, honestly, the less fortunate people, the forgotten, the those who feel like nobody knows them, they're not loved. And I'm reminded truly that, Jesus truly came for the least of these. If you remove everything, who God is, it literally boils down for He comes for the least of these. He really is a great Father. He cares for us.
That's so beautiful. And you carry that part of His heart very beautifully, my sis. So can you share with people, we've been in the hot seat waiting, can you share with the people how Uncommon Daughters got birthed, how it came to be from all of this?
Well, when God removes one thing out of your life, always expect it's gonna show up in another way. And I think laying down the business was an act of surrender, so that He could birth Uncommon through me, which is more of a impactful work. Let's just put it this way. And this name always rocked me. Like I said, it always wrecked me. I'm sorry, because I'm like, wow, how do God takes a little girl from Haiti that nobody knows, or somebody that where I'm from, honestly, because it's like the province is, it's not the city.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always so amazed by the Lord that He had a plan for a little girl like me. Seriously, Justine.
Yeah.
You would have to know where I'm from. So when I share my story, it make more sense. So, yeah. I remember one day I was in prayer. He said to me, I'm going to send you in places so you can bring my love letters to those who feel like, they're forgotten, or they're asking questions and God even know them. And He said to me, tell them just the fact that they're born in the family they're in means they're in answered prayer. They're the one God has chosen to actually remove their family out of poverty.
Wow.
Or out of
Rewrite the story. And I think of my story. My background is not perfect either. And when God began to speak about my assignment, that's what He told me. You are the deliverer of your family. So Uncommon is honestly wherever you're from, no matter what your background. Like, if you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, nothing is impossible. Like, the plan God has for you, they are honestly limitless. They are limitless. So the moment God placed His Spirit on the inside of us, there should never ever be any more limits.
any more limits or anything regular about us, because the Spirit of God is you can't put a price on that. It's of great value, and we become instantly valuable. And you have intrinsic value the moment you receive Christ. So this is what Uncommon is, and just embracing your uniqueness, who you are, and
an identity as daughter.
An identity as
a huge part
of the Most High God.
So I want y'all to know, Uncommon Daughters, yes, they're hosting a conference, but this is like a ministry of service, and a ministry also that provides mentorship. And so that's like a huge part of Pascale's heart, is to like individually equip women to walk in the daughterhood that God has given them through the unique story that God has written for their life. But she also loves to go out and serve and make sure the forgotten and the lost know that they are seen by the Lord. And so I just love just the fullness of what God is like birthing, and how it's so interconnected to your childhood and the stories that you have walked through. And so I'm just really excited to see how God is about to do just amazing things. So before we close out, do you have any just like encouragement for all the Uncommon Daughters out there?
Yes, come expectant, come hungry. 2 years ago, I just never expected my life to be this way. I believe those of you who come to this conference, you're gonna encounter the presence of God. And a year from now, you're gonna have to reintroduce yourself to yourself, because of the way God is about to change your life. This conference signifies a new beginning for you. So invite a friend, invite your mom, your sister. If you feel like you hit a block in your life, like you're confused, you don't know who you are, this is the place to be. I believe God is going to refresh you, and He's going to just give you vision for your life. Well,
as y'all know, come meet us here in New Orleans, September 20th through the 22nd. We hope to have you here. And so thank you so much, Pascale, for being willing to just share your story, to share just your heart with God's people and God's daughters. You can check out more information on uncommondaughters.com. They also have an Instagram page at Uncommon Daughters. So yes, we are so encouraged and just grateful for your yes and for your life. And so we will see you guys at the conference.
See y'all there.